Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in San Diego today. Glad to have Richard Bailey joining us. He is the new mayor of Coronado, recently elected. And I want to speak with you about a very important topic. Before we get into the meat of it, I want you to describe for us an iconic bridge in your midst. It's known as the San Diego-Coronado Bay Bridge. Tell us about that bridge.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on, Brad.
Of course, sir.
So the Coronado Bridge was first built in 1969.
Okay.
And at that time, it was built for $50 million. So
nice.
even in today's dollars,
Right.
It's only $300 million. It was quite the bargain back then.
Right.
And
why was it built? Was it an important connector between the communities?
Very much so.
Right.
So we've always had a large naval presence in
Right.
Coronado, and so it's a way for traffic to get from the San Diego area over to Coronado without having to go down to Chula Vista, then up around the Strand.
I understand.
Yep. So facilitated the flow of traffic throughout the region.
And apparently the investment was wise. You have over 75,000 daily trips.
That's right.
And so there's no doubt that the bridge has come to an effective use. Sadly, the bridge has also attracted folks that are struggling.
It has.
And I want to dig deep into that. We have the issue of people driving off the bridge accidentally.
Yep.
And that's an issue. But I'd like to focus on suicides.
Yep.
Talk us through what is happening and what has happened at this iconic, really beautiful, majestic location.
Sure. So, unfortunately, I think suicide is one of those taboo subjects that nationally our culture just doesn't feel comfortable talking about. And nationally, the statistics show us that about 44,000 people committed suicide last year alone. And that's compared to the number of homicides, which are only 16,000 nationally.
And we think about just recently, Chris Cornell, Soundgarden, we're of the age, we remember him. When I learned that was a suicide, I mean, the guy's at the top of his game.
It's pretty shocking.
And very shocking. Robin Williams, I mean, and these are well-known names. Think about people who do it in silence.
Absolutely. And, so we've had quite a few lives lost from our Coronado community,
And let's be specific, if we may, Mayor,
please.
because the numbers are staggering. We have lost over 400 folks off of the bridge just as a result of suicide. Not talking about accidents that occur. And what's even more frightening to me and upsetting is that the numbers this decade are rising essentially every year. I mean, there are some bumps, but every year it seems as if the numbers are spiking.
They are, and that actually parallels what we're seeing nationally.
Oh, I see.
In 2009, there were approximately 36,000 suicides, and today, or excuse me, last year, there's approximately 44,000. So we're seeing a rise nationally. Unfortunately, a lot of that is attributed to our military men and women, and a higher suicide rate amongst them.
We have people coming back, PTSD, TBI. What's also interesting about your bridge, like the Golden Gate Bridge, its beauty plays into almost the romanticism, and I'm using a term that I learned through the materials provided by you, of the site. So people who are struggling will want to go to a beautiful location.
And it is quite an iconic location. So the bridge itself is about 2 miles in length, and it has a height of 200 feet. And so it's beautiful when you get to the top. It is a majestic view. And unfortunately, that has become sort of a magnet for people within the region.
And I mean, I hesitate to get into the details, but what these folks don't realize is this is not painless. You jump 200 feet, you're going 75 miles an hour by the time. It's not pretty.
It's really not. And fortunately, Coronado, a group formed that started advocating our local elected officials to do something.
And let's talk about that, because you yourself, as just a citizen of Coronado, have been impacted by those that have wanted to take their lives just because you happen to be driving over the Coronado Bridge.
If you talk to many people in Coronado, unfortunately many people have had an experience where either they have seen someone personally jump,
Could you imagine?
Oh, it's tragic.
Imagine. I remember.
It's absolutely tragic.
God, this was maybe 15 years ago, and I literally, sir, I stumbled upon driving on a freeway a body hanging off an over ramp. It haunts me to this day.
You never get that out of your mind.
It haunts me to this day. And so again, at the risk of sounding callous, what happens when an event like this occurs is it causes tremendous backup. I know that may sound like it's irrelevant, but it's important.
It's very important, actually. It's very important because, as we mentioned earlier, the Coronado Bridge is really an integral part of our entire region's transportation system. And because there are 80,000 cars a day that travel back and forth, if that bridge gets shut down, it affects the entire region.
And that can cause other accidents, for example.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking about this. Remember the New Jersey bridge incident with Governor Chris Christie? And what we know is when that bridge shut down, nefarious reasons aside, there were people that couldn't get through, ambulances couldn't get through.
So it's other emergencies.
Well stated. I appreciate that. Okay, so you talked about the desire of leaders like yourself and community leaders, electeds and non-elected, that are looking into somehow trying to get some protective device, whatever it may be. I was mentioning to you, we have a bureau in San Luis Obispo, and we will drive from Santa Barbara to San Luis Obispo through the mountains, and there's a bridge there. Let me get the name for you. It is called the Cold Spring Canyon Bridge. Beautiful, majestic, 50 suicides over the last few years. Caltrans put up a $3 million fence to prevent those types of suicides. And since then, suicides are virtually non-existent. There have been a couple, not even sure how they got around it. Golden Gate Bridge. They're putting up, what is it, sir?
A net that's actually going to be underneath the bridge at a cost of about $200 million. So it's not inexpensive for some of the possible solutions that are out there. One thing I want to point out is that this effort really got kicked off by a local Coronado community group that started advocating for a solution, for us to do something at the city council level in Coronado. But because this bridge is state-owned, it's maintained by Caltrans.
Oh, it's state-owned, Caltrans, right.
So there's nothing either the city of Coronado or the city of San Diego acting individually could do on its own.
But let me ask you about that. I don't want to take a stance, but just upon the reporting that I've read, it seems as if one could argue that Caltrans is being a bit recalcitrant on this. They don't seem to be most interested in finding a solution quickly. I mean, I guess they're in a feasibility study. That could be a recipe for a 5-year plan.
It could take a while. The good news is, I think it's one of those issues that because our culture doesn't like to talk about suicides, it probably hasn't received the attention it deserved until now, and largely due to the credit of this local community group. There was one other event that happened recently, though, that really started creating traction for doing something, which was the tragic event of where we had a truck that swerved over the bridge and crashed into Chicano Park, killing 4 individuals. This happened back in November 2016.
So this is an accident, not even a suicide.
Correct. This was an accident. Now, there have been 5 or 6 documented cases of automobiles actually exiting the bridge, going over the side railing, in the 50 years that the bridge has been in operation. This most recent accident caught the attention of Senator Ben Hueso. And I have to say that Senator Ben Hueso has been extremely passionate about finding a solution to this issue.
And since Caltrans is a state agency, maybe he can engage. I want to thank you, Mayor, for bringing up this issue. I mean, this is really critical. I've lost family and friends to suicide. I'm sure you as well. So it's important we're talking about this. His name is Richard Bailey. He is the mayor of the city of Coronado. My name is Brad Pomerance in San Diego. You're watching us on Local Edition.